When you're going through something, there's two things in which I want you to know. Going through something, I'm talking about like as in hard times and bad times. Two things in which I want you to know is that one, God is always with you. Two is that you have to speak. And we're going to use a few verses in Genesis just for you to see that you must speak in order to change that situation and that circumstance in which you are going through. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 4, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness." When we look at verse 1, we see and understand that God, He was the one that made the heavens and the earth. When looking at verse 2, there are some things within this verse that tells us of how the earth was in the beginning. It says, "The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters." So the first thing, the beginning part of this verse, it says the earth was without form. So the earth didn't have no type of shape. And it say and void. And void means containing nothing. So the earth was literally empty. And then the next part says, "And darkness was on the face of the deep." So there was literally darkness. Now look at this last part of this verse 2. It says, "And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters." Now focus on the word hovering. Hovering means to remain in one place in the air. So because of this, we see and understand that God, He was there. He was present as the earth was how it was in the beginning. But also notice that He didn't do nothing yet. But when we look at verse 3, it says, "Then God said," which tells us that God, He spoke. Verse 3 says, "Then God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." So when God spoke, that's when He began to change the earth from how it was before. And verse 4 says, "And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness." So when God spoke, He changed the earth from how it was before. And even as you continue to go throughout chapter 1, even to the next chapter, you will continually see that God is speaking and changing the earth from how it was before. And so because God spoke to change that, basically how the earth was before, know that when we're going through situations or going through circumstances, we must open our mouth in order to change that in which we're going through. For instance, something which somebody could be going through is financial difficulties. You can open up your mouth and say, "I don't have no financial difficulties. I'm financially prosperous. I am a money magnet in Jesus' name." You can also open up your mouth and destroy the works and power of the enemy. For instance, you can say something like, "I destroy every work and power of the enemy that's trying to hinder me from getting to where God set for me to be, in Jesus' name." Not only that, but in Job chapter 22, verse 28, the New King James Version, it says, "You will also decree a thing, and it will be established for you. So light will shine on your ways." So you must open up your mouth and speak in order to change that situation, that circumstance, whatever you may be going through. You must open up your mouth and speak in order to change that in which you're going through.